Welcome into Bears Weekly, a Chicago Bears network production. Bears Weekly is brought to you by Advocate Healthcare, Athletico Physical Therapy, CDW, Connie's Pizza, and Miller Lite. Here are your hosts, Jeff Joniak, a.k.a. the Mayor of Bearsville, and his sidekick, Tom the Surfmaster Thayer.
From the NFL annual meeting in Phoenix, Arizona, we discuss tonight on Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 and the Chicago Bears Radio Network with Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer. I'm Jeff Joniak. Dan Barilli, Jordan Tredup, and Katie Fox, our producers. Kendra Smith in the ESPN studios tonight. And the executive producer of the Bears Radio Network is Eric Ostrowski. Coming up with the program, we visit with Bears head coach Ben Johnson, Bears president and CEO Kevin Warren, and Chairman George McCaskey, all one-on-one interviews from the owners' meeting. Tom, I got to tell you, some of my reflections on what has been a season to remember and what we're embracing for the future is due in part to the reaction I received just walking around here for 3 days in Phoenix at people stopping, talking, people we've met in our past in the organization that are now with other organizations. And you're going to hear that from Kevin Warren. You're going to hear that from George McCaskey, the excitement about the Bears at a time and place in this very competitive NFL where it's hard to win. A lot of eyes are on the Chicago Bears moving forward.
Yeah, from the outside looking in, it's interesting how you hear it because they have a different tone of what they were witness to than when you get a chance to talk to Ben, George, and Kevin. And I think it's different if you're inside the operation or like I said, you're in the outside looking in because everybody's excited about the NFL. And I don't think anybody was expectant of what the Bears delivered multiple times this past season. And when you look at the ratings, you look at the conversations we've had with people around the NFL landscape, it's exciting, but it's time to move on. I don't want to say my rear view, things in your rear view mirror may look closer than they appear. They still are, but it is time to move on.
Yeah, that's well put, Tom. Well put indeed. We could talk about the stadium conversation as well. That was a big topic earlier today here in Phoenix as the meetings wrapped up and George McCaskey and Kevin Warren spoke to the Chicago media. Aside from what the Bears did on the field, what they're doing now is trying to get that next field, that next stadium. And they are comfortable with two sites, obviously Hammond, Indiana, and the Arlington Park track that they own. And we heard from Commissioner Roger Goodell talking about the fact that it needs to get done soon. So there is mounting pressure to get that done because the time is now. But there are some things that have to be legislated in the state of Illinois, things that have to be explored in Indiana, and when they are given a choice on which track they're going to build, then they'll take it to the Bears board and they'll make that decision. We're getting there, Tommy. We're getting there.
Yeah, not to give away any information, but when you were talking to Kevin Warren, the thing that I like that he said is we want to get the building right. And I think that's the most important thing. The question was maybe, do you get impatient? He says, no, you can't get impatient because it's such a big project that you make sure that all the details are correct. And it's the building for the Chicago Bears fans and for the players themselves. And I do think that's a key element. No matter where it's going to be built, it's got to be correct this time around.
So without further ado, let's listen into one of our interviews with the chairman, George McCaskey, reflecting on what was a tremendous 2025 season. All right, George, I've been dying to ask you this. What did this season mean to you?
It meant we're back. It meant we're a force to be reckoned with. It meant that after decades of searching, it appears we have the right quarterback. It appears we have the right coach. And we have the right general manager. And to me, those are the three critical elements. If you look at any team, you've got to have an outstanding general manager, an outstanding head coach, an outstanding quarterback. And we think we've got it.
They played for the patch. You do realize this.
DJ Moore's comments were very gracious. On the the modern day uniform, that patch appears oversized, but it was very important to us that the patch for Mom be just as big as the patch for her dad, Coach Hallis. The players were wonderful about it.
As you're observing from wherever you were seated for some of these dramatic moments, did you feel in some sense that you were living in a movie?
A lot of it felt surreal at the time. People always ask me, did you enjoy the game? And I said, well, enjoy is not the right word because it's 3.5 hours of absolute agony. Hopefully, more times than not, it's a satisfying result. But to live on the edge like that,
Repeat it.
Almost the entire season, and you talk about ridiculous situations, and they got increasingly more ridiculous just when you think, oh, there can't be a more improbable ending than the game this week. Something crazier or more improbable happened the next week. And I had a lot of fans tell me that's the most fun I've ever had as a Bears fan.
It was the most fun I had, calling games.
Good.
Because, like you said, you're living on the edge, and once it started happening, you're almost like, this can't possibly come down to this again. But it kept doing it, and I think it whet the appetite of everybody for what's next. Has it done that for you as well?
Yeah, if you look at those win probability videos, as the game is progressing, they're graphing the win probability, and it's just, some of them are just stunning.
What'd you learn about Ben Johnson? Because you meet with him every week during the season. What did you learn over the course of the time?
It wouldn't be so much what I learned about him, but what I came to appreciate about him is his intensity, his passion, his intelligence, his innovativeness. He got the players to fight like hell for each other, and they fought like hell for their coach. And he developed in them the confidence that somehow, some way, they would find a way to win.
Stadium, what do you tell folks that think, and many have come to me and said, it's just a ploy, Indiana? What would you say to that?
We don't operate that way. When Kevin wrote to season ticket holders and other Bears fans and told them about the prospect of Northwest Indiana, he told them flat out, this is not about leverage. We've been very transparent with everybody on both sides of the state line. We mean what we say. We say what we mean. We don't play games. I think sometimes that has operated to our detriment over the years, but it's very important to us that we do things the right way, that we're straight with people, and we think it'll lead to a good outcome.
How would you characterize your emotions throughout this whole thing? And is it at once frustrating but encouraging and exciting? I mean, there's got to be a lot of emotions for you and the entire family.
I'm preaching to our family patience, but I have to tell myself that because I'm not a patient person. It's a little bit of a roller coaster ride. It's, like a football game. It goes back and forth. There are ebbs and flows. There are shifts in momentum. And just have to see where we are when the clock reads 000.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Tommy pondered a bit to really grasp what transpired last season, and you could not hide his excitement as not just a owner, but for the Charter franchise and what this means, what it meant to the family, what it meant in a very difficult year losing a lot of loved ones. It was an emotional season for George.
Listen, that when you said, yeah, this is an exciting interview with George, I took away an emotional interview from George, because every time that he has to sit there and ponder about the success that the Bears had recently and what the Bears have meant to him throughout the course of his lifetime, it's hard not to think about Virginia and what she meant to the NFL as a whole, to her life inside the NFL, and what her observances was. And to imagine what she would be thinking from that chair that she sat in and took notes in the skybox, it would get emotional. So I admire the Bears fan that George is, but I also admire the owner that he's developed into.
Coming up next, we'll listen to Kevin Warren, the Bears president and CEO. This is Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network.
Welcome back to Bears Weekly, a Chicago Bears production on the flagship home of the Bears, ESPN Chicago.
This segment of Bears Weekly is brought to you by Athletico Physical Therapy. Visit athletico.com to request an in-clinic or virtual appointment and start feeling better tomorrow. With Tom Thayer, Jeff Joniak, had an opportunity to visit one-on-one with some of the leaders in this Bears organization. President and CEO Kevin Warren taking time to express how he feels about things as they stand after a great 2025 and looking forward, also touching on the stadium at the end of the conversation. Here's our interview with Kevin Warren.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is people feel the positive energy with the Bears. They were excited about our season. Even other teams said they look forward to watching us play. I think the impact, not only around the league, but even with our fans around the world. There's great respect for the McCaskey family under George McCaskey's leadership, and people have commended what Ryan Poles has done to build this roster, how he and Coach Johnson have worked together. They love Coach Johnson's just fearlessness and Caleb's maturation, our young players, our draft picks, the trades, all of those different things. I think that there's been a sense of the Bears, there's a sense of normalcy now. And also there's a sense of focus on, winning, that is just not we're kind of limping into the next year, that we're trying to win a world championship.
I would say the first time in a long time there's so much in lockstep.
Yes.
And that allows you to move forward in a very unique and organic way. True?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you got to be on the same page. George has created an environment of communication, over-communicating, and we have a selfless, no ego person in Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles. Both of them are very similar. They love to win. They hate to lose. Hard workers. They're demanding. They're focused. They're organized. They're diligent. They love the Bears. And so to see all that come together is really special.
How does that trickle down when everybody's empowered to do their job? George has always kind of said that he hires people that he believes will do the job, and he lets them do their job.
And it's true. I think it not only trickles down, it trickles up, down, around, and you can feel it. I mean, you can feel it. Players excited about coming back to work in the offseason. This is rare. I mean, normally, I don't care how good the team is players want to stay away from the building as long as they possibly can. But there's an excitement for the off-season program. There's excitement for the draft, even right now, drafting where we're drafting. It's just good. It is good energy and a good vibration. There's a certain amount of respect and decorum. We don't have a lot of people blaming. We have good teammates, and we got people focused on doing the right thing who love the Chicago Bears. And so we're excited about not only this football season, but all the business items, opportunities we have, the stadium project. It's great for it to feel this way.
Yeah, I had the word vibration in big bold letters because there's vibrations. And it's global, as you indicated. There's a global vibration. So let me take, because Ben Johnson's killing me. I can't talk about last season. But I have to because everybody's approaching me about it. I was at a retirement function for a friend recently, and she apologized because all my family are Bears fans, and they didn't know you were coming, and they only want the stories about where they were when. Yep. So I'm asking you. You had a front row seat to the whole thing. You're in those locker room celebrations, which was one giant poster board for or advertisement for what it means to be a Bear now. What was it like for you in your football and sports life? Where does it rank?
I mean, it ranks high. I mean, I have high expectations, but I think the biggest thing we enjoyed is that when you can, is the ability to predict what the future looks like. And when you saw Coach Johnson literally jump out of the screen during his interview, as this is what you expected, didn't know how it was going to happen. He's never been a head coach at any level. But for Ryan and our interview team and committee to kind of be able to visualize what it would look like when you put him in our building with the resources, with these young players, with transformative ownership, with Ryan's support, with my support, with Ted Cruz and support and the individuals that touch him, the way Aaron has worked with Coach Johnson, so many other people in the building, our senior leadership. If we figured if we could create that environment, that ecosystem of what it would look like. But this is not someone who had been a head coach in the NFL or any level that you can say, well, yeah, I talked to so-and-so and he does it this way. But to be able to project what that looks like and then to see it come to life is really special.
And the urgency by which he is continuing to pass the baton on now to everybody in that building. I mean, you're not messing around.
No, you can't. I mean, it's hard to win in this business.
Yeah,
I mean, it is really hard to win in this. You think about every one of these NFL clubs are 0-0. I mean, we're all 0-0. And this is not something where we carry over games, where wins, where you can start the year and because we made the playoffs and we start off with 4 wins and you can build. No, this is, we're starting flat. And we have to actually put in more work this year than we did last year, because it's going to be more, challenging. We were last place. And to be able to flip that and go to first place in the NFC North, we have a tough division. We have a tough conference. We have a demanding schedule. The thing about the NFL makes it special. Everyone has the same salary cap, same draft. You participate anyway, and the only thing that impacts is your decisions to be able to do it. And then to have our Pro Bowl center, retire. But the way Coach and Ryan, handled that was to be commended.
So, stadium, you talked in great detail. We don't have a lot of time to discuss right here, but if there was a scoreboard on that, where are we at?
The good thing about it, we feel strongly that late spring, early summer, we have to have this resolved as far as the location. You saw Commissioner Goodell even spoke about it at his end of owners' meetings press conference.
Do those words that he said at that moment carry weight?
100%. This is Commissioner of the National Football League who has overseen the building of so many, stadiums. Look the way he's grown this game. We got 9 international games in 4 continents. So he understands. He understands politics, but he understands business, and he knows the importance of it. He knows the importance of having a world-class stadium for the Chicago Bears, and he also understands the importance of what the McCaskey and Hallis families have meant to the NFL. And so the time is now. It's some ways it seems like it's taking a long time. In other ways, It seems like it's, I've been here on this job coming up on 3 years. We've done a lot.
Yeah. And, so you don't feel a bunch of frustration about it?
No, never. That's one thing you can't. I think you have to be patient. You have to be disciplined. You got to trust God in the process. But I think the biggest thing, you just have to have stamina, because the worst thing you can do is rush and get it wrong. So if it takes longer to get it right, that has to be the focus, and I focus on the fans constantly. What can we do to build a world-class environment, and what can we do to build the best home field advantage for our players and a building that they love? Because if your players love the building, they perform, and that's something that's a focus.
He has a great temperament for this very big project of finding a proper place to build a stadium, but also what's going on in the building. And I think it's a great time to be a Chicago Bear, in the building, outside the building, as a fan. And I think he put that in a pretty clear context right there.
Right. On your interview with George McCaskey, I took a lot of emotion from that interview. When I listen to the interview with Kevin Warren, I hear the continuous operation of success. This is not something that's going to be won and forgotten about. This is going to be something that's won and continue. And he talked about the worldwide brand of the Chicago Bears. He talked about the relationship with Ryan, Ben Johnson, and George McCaskey, and how important it is to inside the building as a whole. And so I think that Kevin's got a really good hand on the pulse of the big picture of the building, but it takes that entire building to have the continuous success that the Bears need to have.
And there's that word success, but I'll attach one other, sustained success. And that's what this organization is striving for. I mean, because let's be honest, when you win, free agents, players, broadcasters, local, national, media, the commissioner, Caleb Williams is a conversation here in Phoenix, not just because of the Iceman and that whole thing. It's how he plays the game. It's exciting. All eyes are on the Bears and how they're doing this, and how now will they be able to continue this and grow. And because they are just scratching the surface. When you talk to Ben Johnson, they're just scratching the surface, and we all know it's not simple to win in the National Football League. It's even harder to win a Super Bowl, and that's their sole goal. That is Ben's sole mission, and that's how this organization thinks. They're thinking from a championship perspective, not only on the field but off the field in business. When we return, we will play you some of our Bears Etc. interview with head coach Ben Johnson. This is Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network.
Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer chatting about the Bears. It must be Bears Weekly.
Well, if it's Bears Weekly,
it must be the home of the Bears, ESPN Chicago.
Welcome back, everybody, to ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network with Tom Thayer. I'm Jeff Joniak. For Ben Johnson, every day is a grind. And we learned from our Bears Etc. podcast that dropped this week from a chance I had to interview with him and just listen to him. You know, like you said, everything's in the rearview mirror about last season. He wants to emphasize and make sure that at no point in the season does anybody in that locker room or in that coaching staff take whatever happened for granted a season ago and think it's just going to be that way in 2026. They're going to be all eyes and ears on that. And here's some of that conversation from our Bears Etc. episode 215 with head coach Ben Johnson.
It's been deliberate that, we get the coaches out of the building a little bit, and now, back doing the free agent evals and draft evals now, some self-scout, and they just got off their spring break. So I'm looking forward to getting back in the building, and the urgency that I'm feeling, I know that they're going to feel as well. Our players are going to feel it when they come in on April 20th also. So I think it's necessary. All the attaboys and pats on the back that everyone's experienced since the season's ended, those were great. And yet we need to understand that they're short-lived if we don't continue to win.
You better tell your play-by-play announcer the same thing. I can't get some of that out of my head. The fans are still lit.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing, man. We knew that we have a fan base that they love their Bears, and so it's cool to see the excitement. And hopefully our guys use that as fuel to say, man, we got to keep this going. I love this feeling. We got to keep this thing going. And so you do feel some pressure each and every day to make sure, particularly when you look at the division and you see each team in your division get a little bit better through free agency. And then we got the draft, and they're going to get better in the draft. So are we. Yeah. But you feel that, and I think your competitive nature comes to the forefront, and you're like, man, I got to go.
I kind of looked at all the free agents, and I was taken by the fact that these guys wanted to be here. I sometimes you think it's just BS. They wanted to be here, and I think what happened last season was free advertising for the next crop of free agents. Would you say that's fair? Because they want to feel what you guys felt.
Yeah, well, I think anytime you win, people want to be a part of that, and I think when you are a winner, the players on your roster are more desired by everyone else as well. And so I know we ended up having a number of guys sign elsewhere. And yet we feel really strongly about the guys we're able to bring into the locker room ourselves to replace him. And so it's an exciting time. I know the fact that we have a young quarterback that has garnered a lot of respect because of some of these highlight reel plays that he's capable of making. I think that goes a long way in this day and age.
I know you've said it's only scratching the surface offensively, but would you say Caleb hit some significant mileposts that he can now build on moving forward in your scheme?
Yeah, I think he played as poorly as he's going to play going forward. I think that's one way to look at it.
That's a very interesting delineation.
Yeah. And he'll tell you the same thing. He's going to look at these cut-ups when he comes back into the office and we're in the meeting rooms, and he's going to be, oh, man, we left so much out on the table. And for us to be what we want to be as a team and offensively, we got to make some of these plays on a higher basis, and he'll be the first one to tell you that. When you complete 58-59% of your throws, you're leaving something out there. And so it's going to take everybody. It's on us as a coaching staff. We got to do a better job making sure the primary receiver gets open. Our pass catchers got to do a better job catching the darn ball. And then Caleb's got to continue to improve in terms of the decision making and the ball location. And so it's going to take all of us to be on our mess to get this thing to where we want it to go. And yet when you watch it, it's easy to watch a bad cut up and get discouraged. I see it the other way, though. I get really excited about it because I'm like, I know what it's gonna become. I already know, and our guys got to see it through that lens, and we'll be just fine.
I believe this continuity is king, so that goes on both sides of the ball. But around him, Keenum's back, Bajan's here. Coaches, minor changes. How significant is that for years coming forward here for Caleb?
Yeah, I think it's a big deal because he hasn't had this in a while, probably since his Lincoln Riley days. And so it'll be huge. I feel great about the quarterback room in general. You already mentioned Tyson and Case. I think those two are outstanding for Caleb. As he continues to grow, not just as a quarterback, but also as a leader of this team. A guy like Case Keenum that's been on so many teams and has so many experiences of what it should look like, what it doesn't look like. Man, I think he's an incredible resource. JT Barrett is going to be better this year coaching the quarterback position than what he was a year ago. He's a young coach that's got a really bright future ahead of him, and the more time he takes on his craft, he's going to continue to help Caleb take his game to the next level as well. And then as an entire offensive staff, we've got a lot of continuity. Our guys know what's important to us, what we need to have success on game day, and so I feel really strongly about us taking a step forward.
I read that defensively, the continuity wasn't there a year ago. Mm-hmm. Lots of injuries, lots of movement there. Will that be a key factor, like the development of that back end to marry with the front, because you don't know a lot about some of these guys?
Yeah, I mean, it would certainly help. You end up missing so many games from both Jalen and Kyler.
Terrell Smith didn't play.
Yeah, Smitty wasn't there, and I think when you watch the clips over the course of the season, we certainly want to be tighter in our coverage, particularly our man coverage. It was just an area that when you looked at it, we didn't feel like we gave our pass rush a chance to get there, and so it's a two-edged sword there where we got to get a little bit better getting off the ball and getting after the quarterback, but at the same time, the longer we can and the tighter the coverage we can maintain, the better off we're going to be there. So I'm looking forward to it. We're still a work in progress on that side of the ball, but I feel really good about what we put on tape and being able to get that better next season.
So a lot there, a lot more in the podcast as well, Tom. But your biggest takeaway is that you're right on board with that kind of thinking, because you know how hard, from a firsthand experience, it is to win a Super Bowl and then to try and do it again, and just to get to the playoffs.
Yeah, listen, man, I'm glad that Ben is so excited to get him and his coaching staff back in the building, and he talked about the program starting in late to mid-April and having these guys back in the building and seeing them in the weight room and seeing them around the meeting rooms and stuff, because there's a lot more stuff that's already in place that he's going to be able to capitalize on and build from. But, Ben is man, the guy is, there's something in the tone of his voice that he is never going to let any stone be unturned, and it's only about what the future can offer the Chicago Bears as a team and the success that he wants to have. So if you're a Bears fan, if you're a season ticket holder, whatever part you play in this organization, he's an exciting guy to listen to be interviewed in the offseason, because it's led to success in the season so far from what we've seen out of him.
When we return, we dig into some of the conversations heard around the building here in Arizona at the Biltmore Hotel as people clear out and head back to their respective cities. Tom, no foolery today either. Get it? No tomfoolery. April Fools. No jokes, buddy. No jokes. This is ESPN 1000 and the Bears Radio Network.
Welcome back to Bears Weekly on the Bears Radio Network. Here's your host, the voice of the Bears, Jeff Joniak.
This segment of Bears Weekly is brought to you by Athletico Physical Therapy. Visit athletico.com to request an in-clinic or virtual appointment and start feeling better tomorrow. With Tom Thayer, Jeff Joniak. One of the things that really stuck out, Tom, is listening to some of the other coaches, and on the occasion that a Chicago writer would get there and ask a question about the Bears. Well, they asked Sean McVay about the heroics of that divisional game and that 51.6-yard play. That was a 14-yard red zone touchdown to Cole Kmet from Caleb. And Sean said it's probably the best play he's ever seen in the National Football League. It'll live forever.
Yeah, it's quite a compliment. And I think when you look at what stages of the season and what stages of Caleb's career that took place, yeah, it's the greatest play up until this point in his career, because I expect plays like that to happen, not necessarily with regularity, but I don't think any play is ungettable when you have that type of athleticism, arm talent, and everything else that goes along with needing that to have that success.
Yeah, and then just so many folks coming up asking what Ben's like. And I have a hard time explaining it, because obviously we see him in an interview mode. We don't see him working behind the scenes, but we hear him. I'm going to say it again. When you go to practice, you got to listen to practice. Practice sounds different than it ever had before, in my opinion. And it's going to continue that way from his assistant coaches here in 2026. And I believe the tone he sets, all the coaches and players have to fall in line with that. Otherwise, you're going to be left behind. I mean, Dennis Allen is as intense a coach as Ben is. And it's very cathartic to hear people in the locker room talk about it. And they're talking about it here. The same conversations, but these are NFL officials. They're NFL people. Hey, what was it like in Chicago this year? Everywhere you walk, that's what the question was. It was amazing.
Right. You know, the thing about it is they want to say, is there some secret to success? Right. Is there something that every single team can go out there and do and have the same trajectory of success that the Bears have? No. It's like you always use the word organic, and it comes from the initial press conference of Ben, the expectations that he put on the players and his coaching staff, and then how they had to live up to him through the course of OTAs leading into training camp, and then how early in the season he says, look, we need to work harder on the practice field or we're not going to have the success that we need. And they continued to work hard, and then all of a sudden they saw, the fruits of their labor. And then it became more exciting to go out to practice because they were having success. And they saw that momentum building in the locker room that carried into the meeting room and onto the practice field. And then it kind of gave you the conviction of why you're going out there and working this hard. And it led to some of the most exciting wins in the NFL. But now we've talked about it, sustainability and continuous success. That's what it's got to lead to.
So Kevin, George, and Ryan, they flew to New York to meet with Roger Goodell about the comp picks regarding Ian Cunningham's hiring in Atlanta. So they met with the commissioner, and so there was a lot of listening going on. And so it's not out of the realm of possibility that third-round pick in this month's draft could still happen. It's not off the table, but, of course, the decision needs to happen soon. And the way it was described by George what they did when they created the position of assistant general manager, which did not exist prior to the hiring of general manager Ryan Poles, and how they helped train him. They gave him new projects. They gave him new responsibilities. This was an actual taking an individual and training him for a role as a general manager that he did get in title with the Atlanta Falcons. So the way George laid it all out was very, very clear that this is exactly what the NFL had hoped to do with minority candidates and having them grow in their positions to become a general manager or a head coach, whatever the case may be. So the way George did it, explained it, I'm certain that's how he explained it to the commissioner.
Well, I'm disappointed that they had to go and chase it down because it's something they should have been already rewarded. And Ian Cunningham deserves the position that he's earned. And once you do that, that's the process of what you're supposed to be rewarded with on the development of a guy like Ian Cunningham. So I'm just, looking from the outside in, I'm disappointed that they had to chase it down because it's something that should have been a foregone conclusion. They're getting ready for those picks.
All right, and last little nugget I have before we get to Tom's thoughts in our final segment. This was from NFL Researcher. It's a site on X. He has some great stuff. The most total touchdowns when trailing by one possession in 2025. It was Bo Nix with 16 at number 1, the Denver quarterback. Caleb was number 2 at 15. Baker Mayfield 12. Josh Allen 11. And Matthew Stafford and Dak Prescott also with 11. Drake May and Geno Smith had 10. Bryce Young 10. So that's a deep dive going through every single snap, obviously, of tape review and making sure he's got it right. But 2 young quarterbacks at the top of the list, Bo Nix and Caleb Williams. Tommy.
Yeah, listen, they're being coached well. The reason they were picked so high is the evaluation of both of their teams thought those guys could fit in nicely into the NFL, but I think both of them are going to get better. The more time on task, the more time around their organization. I think both of these guys have the chance to continue to develop into great players. They've been able to bring in help in Denver, and we'll see how the receivers develop in Chicago.
And if that defense develops like we hope and think it will, imagine what it'll be like when you have the lead. You're playing on the lead more than not. What will that look like offensively?
Ben is always in an attack mode, whether they're a couple points behind or a couple points ahead. And I think that's the unique style of his coaching is he said that he'd like to score 50 points a game.
Yeah.
Or I'm saying that he would like to score 50 points a game. And I do think that he's true about that.
All right. Tom's thoughts coming up in our final segment here on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network.
Bears.
It is good!
Bears Weekly.
Time expires!
A deep dive into all things Bears.
And the Bears win!
With Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer, this is the home of the Bears, ESPN Chicago.
Wrapping things up from the NFL annual meeting in Phoenix, Arizona. This is Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network with Tom Thayer, Jeff Joniak, and time for Tom's thoughts. And 4th down is on his list. Learn to love 4th down. Looks like you and Doug Coletti, our great statistician, has done some homework.
I don't have time to go through all the numbers that we talked about, but I'll just give you so in 2024, the Bears went for it on 4th down 38 times in 2024, the most by a Bear team ever, 11th most in history. So that's desperation. Then you look at the strategy of the 4th down. The Bears this year, 13 of the 29, they were up or tied. 16 of the 29 they did in the first half. In all 29 of the 4th downs were 5 yards or less. So I'm talking about in 2024, we went for 4th down because of desperation. On 4th down that we went in the first year of Ben Johnson, it was a strategy. There's a lot more numbers that I could back this up with when we have time to. But when I look at 4th down, I embrace that down now like never before in the history of me watching football.
Well, that's what I was driving at. What was your conclusion? Yeah.
the conclusion is that if you're desperate for your fourth down attempts, the likelihood of you being successful is underwhelming. It's 31 of the 38 fourth down attempts for the Bears in 2024, they were down. 31 of the 38. 17 of them were in the fourth quarter or overtime, and 6 were 4th and 10 or more. So they were going for it in a desperate scenario in 2024. And when they were going for it in the first half in Ben's decision-making process in fourth down, that's what I love about fourth down. It's become the most exciting down in football over the course of this year.
Very good, Tom. Good with the homework. Good with the homework. Your number 2 is it's not tampering.
Right. All right, you know me, Jeff. I'm a UFL guy. And so you've got to start identifying guys that could possibly be out there that could come in to help you. So I'll give you a couple examples. Cam Dantzler. He's a guy that was drafted by the Minnesota Vikings. He's a cornerback. He's 6'2". You got to watch the way. What proves to me that these guys in the UFL is they want to play football, and they're willing to do whatever it takes of them. Yeah, maybe the scenario that he was put in early in his career with the Minnesota Vikings wasn't the best of positions. But here's a 27-year-old cornerback that's 6'2", and you saw what Al Harris did last year with some of these guys. So it's not tampering. Then you got McCrane. Here's a kicker, hit a 60-yarder. In week 1 of the UFL. It's now they give you 4 points if you kick a field goal over 50 yards. I'm not telling him to change the rule, but he's not a guy that I can ignore. So to me, you're getting ready for the draft. You're looking at free agency. I gotta look at positions of concerns of the UFL that you could possibly be interested in. When I was in the USFL, I signed my Bears contract at the midway point of my last USFL season. So I was signed, sealed, and delivered going while I was still playing 9 games left in the USFL.
How did that work?
So the Bears drafted me when I came out of college. They had my rights for 4 years. I signed a 3-year deal in the USFL. So they started negotiating with the Bears at the midway point of my last USFL season. And so when I look at these guys in the UFL right now, it's not tampering. So you got to investigate.
I wish I had 18 is Tommy's final one. What do you got there?
So there's been a lot of talk about the 18-game schedule. In the USFL, we played 18-game schedule, but we played no preseason games. When I was in the NFL, we played 4 to 5 preseason games if we had an extra preseason game if we traveled out of the country. Now they're talking about cutting preseason games down to 2, having 18 regular season games with 2 bye weeks. I love that. It means that you got to have a little bit more sense of urgency in your preseason preparation because you don't have those 4 weeks in preseason to continues to install. So you got to do a lot of installation during OTAs and then have that quick process of the preseason, then get ready for those 18 regular season games. I'm talking 2 extra game checks because I played 16 games in 2 less preseason games. Let's go to work.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it's going to happen. I firmly believe that. I know the union will have some say in it and how that affects them health-wise or whatnot, but I think they'll make it happen. All right, Tom, we're out of time. Great job. Thanks for all your help on this special edition from Phoenix, and the NFL annual meeting has come to a conclusion. We'll be back next week with a close eye on what's next for the Bears as they get their offseason program getting started here in just a couple of weeks. And, of course, the draft is something we're going to explore in detail as we get closer as well. I want to thank everybody, including all of our producers and Kendra Smith, and also to all of our guests. They include Chairman George McCaskey, President and CEO Kevin Warren, and Bears head coach Ben Johnson. This has been Bears Weekly on the radio home of the Chicago Bears, ESPN Chicago. Amber and Ian are next. Good night, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Chicago Bears Network presentation of Bears Weekly. hosted by the mayor of Bearsville, Jeff Joniak, and Surfmaster Tom Thayer. Podcasts are available on the Chicago Bears official app. Brought to you by Verizon and Apple Podcasts. Bears Weekly has been brought to you by Miller Lite.